Good evening, everyone. This is Niladri Chaudhary, CEO of Excellentro. And with me, I have Akanksha Chaturvedi from New Relic. And today we are going to talk about observability with New Relic. And this is an event which is being organized by our service called Playground, which is a virtual dojo where people can come in, they can bring their business problem, we help them hypothesize the problem and experiment it, take that learning, go back, and they can do that whatever they want to do in their own environment. So as you know, and this is the definition of observability. So observability is a measure of how well internal state of a system can be inferred from the knowledge of its external outputs. So in control theory, the observability and controllability of a linear system are mathematical dual. Whenever I look at observability, I think in terms of the COVID-19, that asymptomatic situation. Now, when it is asymptomatic, we don't know what is happening inside, right? So we want to know what is happening. And that is possible only when we are able to get that information from within. And today we are using a lot of moving parts. There's so many things that are happening. We have serverless, we have containers, we have Kubernetes, we have infrastructure as code, everything. And we need end to end throughout the pipeline. We need to have something that we can see. And that's what we are looking for. The second thing that we need to look at is not only what is going to go wrong today, but what may go wrong in future. And for this, monitoring is not good enough, and we need to have more. We need continuous and automatic discovery and instrumentation, which will allow us to continuously see what is happening, what is the health of the system, what can go wrong, like that. We need to identify the unknown unknowns in a scaled environment. Monitoring always helps us with the known unknowns, but observability looks at the unknown unknowns. What happens when it scales? What happens something else? So for example, if you look at a 1 minute delay in latency for a number of people who are working, using the system, which is just say 50,000 users, it might not be a problem. But that same 1 minute delay with a 5 million user can crash the system. So we need to see whether whatever we have, is it going to also work fine in the future? And that requires observability. And as we call it, observability is about MELT, MELT. Matrix, which is your monitoring, events, logs, traces. All the four things together is observability. Now, today, without spending much more time, I will introduce Akanksha Chaturvedi, who is the solutions engineer at New Relic. And she has a lot of experience in this area, and she's going to take us through her session and also the demo of how New Relic helps in observability throughout the pipeline. Because we know that today, the pipeline is not stopping at the dev side. The pipeline has extended till production. And number two, we are looking at a large distributed system, right? So with this, let me hand over to Akanksha. Akanksha, all yours. You can introduce yourself a little bit more.
Sure. Thanks, Ladri. So hi, everyone. I'm Akanksha. I'm working with New Relic as a solutions engineer, and I have around 10 years of experience in the similar domain, working for companies like Akamai, Visa, Keynote, Catchpoint, primarily focusing on performance aspect of different entities. And today we'll take a look at how New Relic can act as a good solution to understand what's really happening, not only from one aspect, but also from end to end, so that there is no gaps when we try to understand where are the bottlenecks. And for that, we can just move to the next slide. And nowadays, as Niladri mentioned, developers are not the only one who can take a look at the data. The process is ongoing. We have to take a look at observability not only on a quarter basis, but every day when there is issue, and also how to improve it further. So it is an ongoing process that we talk about, and how New Relic can be helpful in understanding the end-to-end observability, getting all these different aspects from metrics, events, logs, traces to a proper solution or understanding of what's happening with your application in detail. And for that, we can move to next slide. So here you can see APM, infrastructure, Kubernetes, log management. These four components focus more on what's happening on your application, how your application may be hosted on AWS or on Kubernetes are performing, and what is the bottlenecks with the application that you would have created on using Java, .NET, and so on, and how we can further drill down the issues with the logs, how we can pinpoint what's happening. Now, the first four components talk about what's happening at the backend aspect. Now, when we want to understand what's happening from the end user perspective, that's where mobile, browser, and synthetics comes into picture, so that we can understand how end users are experiencing your application. Maybe it could be a mobile app or a browser applications like any e-commerce website, and also have a plan to proactively test the environment by running synthetic scenarios, for instance, reachability to your critical URLs. And then we can also take a look at network performance and machine learning drift around that as well. Along with that, we can also take a look at error that we can see from different aspects. Now, without further delay, I would like to deep dive into how we can take a look at New Relic portal itself whenever we want to further drill down to understand what's happening. And I'll just go ahead and share my screen here.
You can share now.
Okay. So let me know when you can view my screen. I hope everyone can see my screen now.
Yes, we can see.
Okay, great. And the font looks fine before we go ahead?
Yeah, I can read.
Okay, okay, great. So this is what you see as New Relic portal. You can see all the APM instrumented in one page, along with all the properties that we discussed on a high level. Let it be your mobile applications, browser, synthetic, hosts, health, or your applications over here. It could be, again, APM solution. When we talk about APM, it's basically application performance monitoring to understand how your microservices are doing. Now, you can further take a look at it over here. There are other ways as well, so that it makes it easier to take a look at the data. And for this current scenario, we'll just try to come up with an example. I know Kubernetes is something very relevant for current scenario, so we can deep dive further to it. And for that, I'll just scroll on the left side. You can again see everything that we have instrumented is configured over here. You can just further take a look at it. For this particular scenario, let's see, we have a cluster that is already configured on New Relic, and how to understand what's happening, how we can get complete visibility around this. So this is basically your cluster, and your applications are hosted on different on AWS in this case. And this gives you a quick view of how the health of different nodes look like. And you can see that anything that is green is basically showing it is healthy. In this case, you can see the nodes are doing great. You can see the pods, nothing but your APIs containers are also looking healthy over here. The yellow ones basically talks about there is something wrong around it. We can further drill down and take a look at it. And the red ones basically shows that there are thresholds that are being met. So you don't have to, understand where are the pieces. This basically talks about the whole story. If you want to understand, we can just click on one of these, take a look at the data, like what are the CPU, what is the CPU usage, memory usage. We can also see the APM details around it, like how much time the transaction takes, what is the throughput around this. And we can leverage this data right away and drill down. This is one of the ways. If you know what exactly you're looking for, you can scroll down and see the pods over here. So I'll just select some of the pod that is running successfully, and we can further drill down to one of them. Now, if In this case, CPU memory, there are no alerts. You can also take a look at the logs right away. And here we can see web transaction time is varying a lot for this one. So we can further, from here itself, take a look at application. And if you want to understand what's happening at this particular instance, we can further select this scenario. We can take a look at the entities that are associated to it, if there is any issue around this. For instance, in this case, we see few of the services that are connecting to these are having issues, and there is a call being made to one of the service. The gray basically shows there is no alert configured. So you can also configure alerts to get quickly notified. And here, if we take a look at it further, we can see transactions that are actually causing spike to the transaction time over here. And if I select any of these, we can further drill down to understand what's happening. So here we can.
Akanksha, Fanindra here. There's a question from my side. So is it an agent-based monitoring capability, or it scrapes similar like Prometheus exporters?
It is an agent-based monitoring. You can install agent, and it's very simple. It does not require, a series of code to be instrumented, but you can actually use this UI to install that agent as well.
And in terms of pod, will it run as a separate container or something like sidecar proxy along with application container?
So it leverages the daemon set over there.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
So is it applicable only for the containerized application, or like?
So I'm taking containers as an example, but you can instrument it on any kind of scenario. It basically depends the OS version you're using, that your service might be on your in-house, in-house infrastructure, or it could be on AWS, GCP, any cloud environment. So we can instrument that as well.
Okay. And like how it is differs from the other monitoring tools like Prometheus or Kibana?
So most of the tools don't give you end-to-end observability. They might be just doing a great job with infrastructure aspect, or just external monitoring, but this gives you a deep dive insights. We'll show how it also correlates to different services. For instance, you take a look at just any e-commerce website, you go to the home page, and then you further make calls to web services at the backend. Now with this, you can actually, and specifically one of the features that is distributed tracing, you can correlate what's happening for that particular end user, and then understand where is the bottleneck. For instance, auth service is taking too much time for that particular client. So these are few insights that you can further take a look at.
I would request everyone to just hold on a little bit, and whatever questions you have, you can also type it down at logical intervals. I'll get Akanksha to answer those. That way the flow will not be broken.
Yep. Thanks, Niladri, for that suggestion. So just getting back to how you can further drill down and correlate the data to get deep dive insights around this. We observe that there is high response time. We can see what particular services causing that spike in the response time that we were seeing on the previous page. And here, if we see, it's basically order status interactions. It's a post request, and then we can further take a look at throughput and also further drill down. So for that, we can see distributed tracing. We'll take a look at it in a minute, but we can also take a look at abdex score. Abdex score is basically a way to rate a particular transaction if it is doing great with the application index score. It's just a ratio that tells you that okay, you have so many satisfied users on your website or a particular service versus how many you have as a tolerating users. Usually it's used with a combination of response time and abdex score. And you can also here quickly take a look at error rate. Currently, we don't see that. But let's take a look at why the response time is on a higher side. And for that, we can take a look at trace over here. So this gives you individual transactions. If you see over here, this is verify purchase, one of the requests that is being requested over here. And you can see there are two different services that are being communicating to get these numbers. And if we further take a look at it, we can see one of the examples where there is a higher time frame in case of trace duration. This will give better insights. And I'll just go and further take a look at one of the examples. And here you can take a look at order processing, making a call to order status. This is one of the vanilla configuration, but if you have any database query being made, you can actually take a look at it over here. And this gives you more insights around what all entities are communicating with each other. Where is the bottleneck? For instance, here you can see that though verify purchase is taking 114 milliseconds, your order status is taking around 57 milliseconds. So you can figure out the bottlenecks around this. And that's how you can further take a look at it. Now, another insight that you can see over here is the logs. So if you're logging, you'll be able to see the logs as well right over here to understand what's happening with that particular request on a logs level as well. And you don't have to go to any other location to further understand, okay, for this client this was the insights that we can see. And if I click over here, I can further take a look at granular details on the log aspect.
Akanksha, there is a question. I'm just putting it here from Shreya saying that can we use it for monitoring Windows service and storage?
We can use it for Windows services if you have anything configured. And when you talk about Windows storage, are you talking about more on database aspect or?
I mean, no, it's the services in Windows that we run, component services.
Yeah, so Windows services you can definitely monitor using APM over here. So there is a support of Linux, Windows, and other OS.
Okay, and what about storage? Like if the disk is running out of space, etc.
Absolutely. So those metrics are also captured over here. I'll quickly show you what all insights we can take a look at on infrastructure level, because we can capture all these stats as well. Okay. So let's go ahead. Now, here you can take a look at logs aspect. Now, if you want to go to logs itself, you can actually further click over here and see all the logs that are being captured around this. Now, we can also take a look at logs from a different aspect. So right now you see just one particular log, but if I just get rid of the filters over here, you can see all the logs coming through. So if you want to quickly take a look at all the logs that are showing error, you can just type error over here and you'll be able to see the logs that are coming in. You can also do different analysis on the logs here itself, and also you can save the view. For instance, you want to see all the errors that are, all the logs that are showing 404 or any particular metric that is of your interest, you can create a view and save it over here. You can also further drill down using attributes. In this case, you can see host name, and the moment you type host name, you'll be able to see more details around this. Like we can see 70 values of host name, and we can further drill down to a particular host name based on your interest over here. So that's how you can take a look at logs. You can drill down to a granular level. And if you want to understand quickly on infrastructure aspect, there is an option of host that you can see on the left side. You can quickly understand how the infrastructure looks like. You can see CPU, memory, storage aspect, and you can further drill down to understand what is the disk utilization. You can also see processes that are involved over here. So here you can see disk usage, load, average load, and also the processes running during that time. So sometimes whenever there is a spike on any of these metrics, you can further take a look at what processes were running at that particular time, what was the consumption around this. And that's one way. That's one of the features so that you can deep dive. We also provide a quick view on how your applications are doing, how these entities are doing. For instance, someone quickly want to understand maybe last 5 minutes if there had been any changes on any of these properties. In this case, we are seeing memory usage on infrastructure. You can actually see what has changed in last 5 minutes when compared with last 1 hour average. And the color code basically tells you that there is some change. The size shows the volume of the traffic that is being handled. In this case, you can see host level. You can also take a look at APM aspect. For instance, you have any service that is taking, more time than earlier, you will be able to see over here as well, real quick. And that's aspect of how we can take a look at, quick look at, what's happening on this. And if we go to other features, I'll just show you how we can further drill down. We already saw how quickly we can deep dive. There is also another aspect to observability, that is dashboard. If you have the data being collected, you would like to see quickly how your applications are performing, what are the impact on the host when you have different entities running. So so the key factor is over here that it also provides a curated dashboard. You don't have to write any query. You can just click on pre-built dashboards. And if I talk about full stack observability, which includes your end users traffic to database queries, you can actually take a look at it. All you need to do is just select your account. We can skip the configuration that is not set and just take a look at dashboard. So here you can quickly understand in last this shows one week's data here, and you can see that end user in last 1 day you have 405,000 page views. So basically there are this much traffic that came through. On this side, you can see everything that is related to your front end. This is where your application performance is visible. So you can see how many transactions were there. You have instrumented multiple applications. For instance, it could be auth, order, checkout. You can take a look at these applications over here and how much traffic you're getting, how many transactions that particular application is processing within last 1 day, and what is the duration. So all these insights you can get on the overview page along with your infrastructure health, like how many hosts are hosted over there, what is the CPU usage for last 1 day. This gives you a very quick view. Now, teams from SRE can take a look at this view as well, like what are the performance metrics that we see over here. You can also get golden signals. Basically, we talk about latency, error rate, and response time and throughput as golden signals. And here you can take a look at what's happening. You can also see how much errors are over here, and we can do a comparison around it. So this gives you a quick view of how your whole application is performing. And then if you want to further take a look at infrastructure, application aspect, this gets more granular. For instance, you can see what is the transaction duration by application, how well the applications are performing. And also you can take a look at slow transactions. Now we'll further take a look at APM level, how we can see slow transactions, how we can take a look at the database queries. But this helps you to quickly understand more on the higher level. You can again always curate the dashboards. And we also have integrations for different aspects. For instance, if I click on pre-built dashboards, if I want to type AWS, I can see all the different dashboards created to understand how your infrastructure is performing, how the logs are performing. We can also create Kubernetes dashboard right away to understand different metrics around it. And you can also take a look at your CDN aspect. So CDN again acts as a very important part of your end-to-end observability. And we already have dashboards configured for your CDN data as well. Any questions around dashboards before we deep dive into APM?
Akanksha, from SRE perspective, so can we create the SLI SLO dashboard or
Great. Yeah, great question. Definitely we can configure it. I'll show you how you can configure it in a minute.
Yeah, thank you.
No problem. Any other question around dashboard, or we are good to go ahead?
And I hope, so you have shown us for the last 24 hours data, right? So we can select accordingly as per our requirement, right? For the last 1 hour or according.
Yes, we can customize it. So just getting back to full stack observability again, if you want to access it, once I've created it, it will be visible. For that matter, any dashboard that you create, you get a flexibility to take a look at the data, not only for 5 minutes, but also for 6 months. So that's quite a lot of insights that you get for, literally half of your year's metrics. And I think that will be helpful either ways for a small time frame or longer time frame.
Yeah, and so in the first slide you shown us like there are some what I can say we have set up some threshold value, right? So who are they set up? I mean, based on the historical data we have to set up, or it's based on the query, or maybe anomaly detection. It's getting set automatically. How does it work?
Sure. So it is combination of the of the pre configured values and also anomaly detection. So we have complete section of detection and AI, and that definitely helps us to identify what could be the issues. For instance, if you go over here under detection and AI, we can see what are the warning and critical violations we see based on the previous data and how we can take a look at it. So this will give you more insights around the trend, but you can always customize it. For instance, if you have AppDex score, it's in your APM. This is by default, we'll say 0.5 configured, but you can actually modify it, because in this scenario, you don't want to have AppDex score around around 1. It's not ideal to have 1 as your AppDex score. So as your services improved, as your page improves, you can actually adjust these values as well, because it might vary from one service to another.
Okay.
I hope that answers your question.
Yes. So I mean, based on our requirement, or maybe there is some noise, right, which anomaly can detect, but we don't want that noise to be created. It's getting disturbed for us, so we can just customize as per our requirement, right?
Absolutely, yes. Another good advantage is that you see violations, but unless you don't create an alert, you will not get notified. You can always come over here, take a look at detection and AI, because alerts are something that requires little tweak based on one company to another, based on different architectures. So there is a flexibility to do that. So that's how you can take a look at different aspects. And another thing that we can take a look at is APM services. So how you can deep dive from a particular application. In this case, we discussed about, you can see web transaction time, AppDex score, throughput. You can also take a look at errors. You can see logs as well, like how we are capturing over here. But there are more things that we can take a look at. For instance, for a particular scenario, what are the different database queries that are being made? What are the dependencies that are there? For instance, in this case, you can see that it is communicating with different services. You can see if a particular request, in this case, if it is order status that is showing some alerts, you can see that might be caused because of few violation we can see in Composer and processing. Now, this is more of a tabular format, but if you want to understand what's really happening, you can actually understand the graph as well. You can see service map to quickly understand where could be the bottleneck. For instance, we see red, there are alerts being triggered. So you can see over here, and you can see how the communication is going through. So it connects the dot. It gives you a complete picture of what's happening in a particular scenario. And if you want to take a look at Kubernetes, there is similar insights that you can take a look at, like what is the different stats around the Kubernetes aspect. So it's handy here as well. And Next, we would like to talk about errors inbox. There will be lots of scenarios where you would like to get alerted around errors. Now, errors inbox provides a standard location where you can take a look at what's happening to different entities and how you can take a look at different errors within one location. And if you want to assign it to a particular member of your team, you can actually do that, and they can take a look at it further to understand what's happening. So this gives you a consolidated view again to take a look at what's happening to your end-to-end applications. Now, we spoke about APM. We spoke about how your applications, leveraging Java or .NET can get more insights. We can also take a look at browsers aspect as well. So here, if we take a look at one of the browser application, this is what your end users are experiencing. With application, you can understand how quickly your services are loading, but what about the view from external aspect from your end users? So in this case, you can see 3 Google Core Web Vitals that are critical, for your teams to understand that these are the metrics that are going to be used by Google to rate your pages, to rate your website. And usually you can see that when we talk about these, they are more related to front end and back end. So it's very important to understand, if you see these to be a big number, what are the issues behind it? For instance, LCP, largest contentful paint, is basically how quickly your largest object on your page is getting downloaded. And you can see it's 1, 2, 3, 4 milliseconds, which is fine over here because it shows green. Anything between below 2000 is good. And if you see anything between 2000 to 4000, it's again orange, which means need to be worked on. And 4000 milliseconds or anything above that is actually a big concern. So these are few guidelines that are being shared by Google for these Core Web Vitals. And it's going to be critical, in our upcoming months based on the ranking that Google is going to do. So it's very important to correlate these metrics to your complete application. And that's where we can see front end versus back end. In this case, you can see that front end is taking around 200 milliseconds, while we can see some spikes on the, back end is taking decent time, but we can see some issues on the front end aspect. So we can further take a look at what is causing that issue. We can further correlate with more data over here and try to understand what's happening. This also gives you page views and also errors associated to it, and what kind of end users are there, not only just the device, but also the user agent and also the location from where they are requesting that page. For that, we can further drill down over here. Again, this gives you a granular information so that you can correlate it with your critical services at the backend side. Now, we also have distributed tracing, very similar to how you can trace down a particular end user request, going from the main page to another backend service. So you can see what all errors are over here. And this is usually the view you'll see when there is a communication. And you can understand the dependency similar to your APM solutions. Now, with page views, you can understand what are the pages that are being requested. For instance, here you can see webportal.telco.com. You can further take a look at it, how it is performing from different aspects, because what we were looking earlier is average of all the pages on your website, but this gives you flexibility to select the page you want to further drill down and understand why it is slow. And similarly, you can understand asynchronous calls being made. In this case, you can see just one AJAX call, but you can understand the response time as well. It's taking around 844 milliseconds. You can further take a look at why it is taking so much time. Again, we'll follow the same view that we had been taking a look at. Another important factor is that you can take a look at the status code. So this does not include 200, but request that actually shows concern. This shows 4xx and 5xx from the browser side. So likewise, you can further drill down and take a look at it. And again, you can create alerts around this. Now, that's how you can see more details around different aspects. Before I go ahead to service levels, any further questions around what we have discussed so far? Okay, great.
I have one question. When you said data backend, does it refer to database, the performance of database, or?
So it refers to anything from your application server to the database server. To the database query. It can be on Redis or anything on AWS as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, one question on the detection in AI. I believe that New Relic could have some kind of data model or the machine learning model behind it. Can we also build our custom machine learning models to find out the detection and anomalies?
Like configuring some conditions based on your requirement?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So anything that you see over here can be used to create alert. And I'll just take a step back over here. Just give a minute. If you see for any of these queries, you can actually create alert. For instance, if I just go to any of these, I can take a look at one of the, for instance, just taking an example of an abdic score. And here I see the query. I can further get alerted around this. Like if abdex is having issue, likewise, you can curate any kind of queries to get alerted around.
Yeah, one is alerts, but in terms of anomaly detection, you might have some machine learning model running behind it. Right? Can we customize or can we adapt our own machine learning model for anomaly detection?
So you'll be able to, make some configuration. You can see add a configuration, and then you can select the value from here. Again, this will let you select the APM, and you can select the different fields from here. If you want to customize anything specific, you might have to, take a look at it further.
Okay.
Currently, it's these that you can take a look at. But you can create queries that might not be, again, based on machine learning, but that's definitely something our New Relic is working on. But you can create some customized query to get that.
Okay.
I hope that answers your question. Now getting back to service levels. So here you can see we have configured few service levels. Again, they are based on different entities. So ideally, you can select a particular entity. For instance, for an APM, you can select the latency as one of the metric, and you can understand how it is varying from time to time. We are taking a look at last 2 hours, last 24 hours, and so on. And the way we evaluate it is that for maybe last 24 hours or maybe last 7 days, how many requests, in this case transactions, in case of APM, are actually having a latency higher. So we can define over there that, okay, in this case, you can see a particular metric should be below 300 milliseconds. And based on that, we can create this view on SLIs. Again, let me know if you have any questions around it.
So there are some formulas which are associated with it, right? To calculate the SLO, the SLI.
Like it should be greater than that, or maybe percentage of it to be high. Yeah. Yes, we can configure that.
So now you have selected for the latency SLO as 95% for the 7 days, right? So this is based on the component wise, like microservices, then load balancer and those stuff, or is it on the the entire application, right?
No, this is only on one microservice that we have evaluated.
Based on the 7 days metrics, right?
Yes, and here you can see further breakup, like how we can define it.
So where are you calculating, like whether we are reaching or not, or do we have any budget for error budget or something like that?
Sorry, can you get closer?
Yeah. So from where we can configure all those things, like error budget, do we have it, or we are going to cross that or something like that? So Where can we configure those things?
Like how many so we
Error
can
budget, yeah.
error rate, basically, like how many errors are coming through and how we can take a look
No,
at.
error budget. So how much time we have with us to do the deployments or bug fixing and those stuff, or maybe the patches. Error budget I'm talking about.
I don't think that that's something that can be configured, but let me get back to you on this one.
Okay, sure. So basically, these are the SLO, right? And you must have configured some SLI, right?
Right.
And based on that, we have the SLAs,
Right.
So, I mean, how we are calculating from here, whether we are reaching those or we are crossing those.
Okay, that we take from APM itself. For instance, in this case, if box, I'll just take one of the example. If the web transaction time is taking, maybe 20% of the requests are actually taking more than 10 seconds, then we get alerted, and we can also take a look at the time frame for 15 minutes, 20 minutes. That's how we can configure it as well. So we have around 9 minutes. I'll just, I'll just take 2 minutes on synthetic. So we have spoken about end users, what's happening with your application, what's happening with your database. But we can also take a look at how we can proactively monitor different applications. For instance, if your homepage is up or not, you can actually configure it over here. And if you want to, and then you can take a look at, what is the success rate. You can monitor from different location, and at the frequency you can monitor. For instance, every 5 minutes you can run a synthetic test to understand how your application is performing. Is it giving 400, 200, 500? And you can get alerted around it. And if you want to add any data, it's very simple. You can just click on add data. For synthetic, you can just type synthetic over here, select the synthetic monitoring, and see different options. In interest of time, I would like to talk about availability. You can see if it is up or down. You can also understand the flow of end users transaction. For instance, in case of any page, you can see it is going to the home page, and then trying to log in, and then trying to select some activities over there, make some clicks. You can actually do it and then monitor it maybe every 1 hour once, and you can get metrics around it as well. So it also checks the functionality of your website maybe after a release. And likewise, you can instrument applications as well. For instance, in case of I'll just take example of Java. We also have other support as well. Here you can take a look at application monitoring, and in this case you can select the account, basically where you want to configure. You click on begin installation. You can select the where you would like to install that agent. Now we also help you to monitor serverless. If you have anything instrumented in your architecture, we can actually monitor that as well. So we can have Lambda Java function as well. You can, in most of the cases, you can just select Maven or Docker, further click on it, and this will give you more instructions around this. So likewise, you can install different properties around this. And similarly, you can do it for host. You can also do it for AWS. You can actually get all the insights from AWS to New Relic to correlate, because in the end, we would like to have not only few components of the your application, but everything in one place, so that we can correlate what's happening on your application. Is it your infrastructure causing that issue? Is it anything related to maybe database that is causing issues? So you can actually try to curate some quick database as well. So that will give you a quick view around what all different metrics you can capture. Here you can add the data to get more information. You can also create quick dashboards. So if I just click over here, you can also create quick dashboards around this just by clicking on add data. So there's one-stop location where you can quickly understand what's happening. You can take a look at what metrics you'll see before you create any dashboard. And this gives you a quick view from each and every aspect of your application. That's all from my side. If you have any questions, feel free to ask.
So
one
Akanksha,
question. Sorry.
for the integration, for the New Relic and AWS account, so it's
Mhm.
just we need to install that, and how we can take that ahead, or we have to go through AWS API or something like cloud or something
Okay.
like that.
So in case of New Relic, you can create a New Relic account. It's again, you can just provide credentials. You can go to newrelic.com, and for New Relic, you can you don't have to go to AWS, but you have to get this information and then just install, maybe run few commands that will help you to configure it. So you can just take a look at this, like what you would like to instrument on AWS. It depends if you're using EC2, if you're using ECS on AWS, and based on that, the steps might vary. But you can always leverage this discuss.newrelic.com or docs.newrelic.com. And if you want to install maybe something on AWS, you can just type agent on AWS, and this will give you the actual information, because it might vary where you would like to instrument. I hope that answers your question.
So agent, like in Prometheus, we do have the different. We have to install those. So similar way, is it with the New Relic? It's agent we need to install based on the data we wanted, right?
Right. Yeah. If you have Java application, you would require Java agent, and you need to just check the version that you're having for your Java application, and based on that, you can install the agent. Now, second aspect is, where is it? Is it on AWS? Those aspect also you can just evaluate, and based on these two combination, where exactly, what language, you can actually take a look at the right agent that needs to be installed. And your APM will take care of your infrastructure as well and your logs as well. So it's just one agent that can help you to capture all these three metrics.
And we can create the alert, email notification or maybe the health check report from this, right? Like
Yes,
we do have.
Yes, you can do emails. You can also use tools like Slack and other and Obs Genie. So we can do integration with those as well.
Thank you so much, Akanksha. Yeah, it's really interesting.
One question. Yeah, one question on the serverless. So I can see the catalog of AWS or Azure where we can set up agents for serverless. What happens to open source tool? Like if I wanted to use Zap, or if I want to use OpenFaaS, Open Function as a Service, is New Relic flexible, or is New Relic has a possibility to integrate with open source tools?
Yes, so we are into open telemetry, integration, and we do provide, for instance, for open source, we can get some data over here. For Prometheus, also we can get the data over here, so that our main objective is to have everything in one place to make it easier to further troubleshoot or pinpoint to the issues. So that's definitely a feasibility.
Okay, let's say if I'm using any open source serverless tool like OpenFaaS. So do we have some kind of connectors or integrations which are generic in nature, or agents generic in nature, which can be integrated? So OpenFaaS would be running on a Kubernetes kind of platform, but it's a serverless feature.
So you can check, and the best way will be to you can get to the website and you can just type over here. If we support it, we have open telemetry, we have lots of integrations, so you can always check over here and just confirm on this, but we do provide a lot of them.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Any other questions? Okay, so nothing else.
Great.
Thanks, Akanksha. You can stop the share and I'll just share it once again, the PPT. And so with that demo, thank you everyone, and thanks Akanksha for you taking us through all this. Hopefully, people will be interested in going ahead with it. So one of the points that I would like to mention is that if you want to practice all these things on a pay-as-you-go model, you bring in a team, you want to go ahead with it. Playground Dojo is where we are going to be able to support you on that. It's a virtual dojo on a play-as-you-go model, and we can look at things like this. So check playgrounddojo.com for this, and you'll be able to find some information, connect with us if you want. And those who are present, those who doesn't know that we organize one of the largest DevOps and DevSecOps SRE event from India, which is globally pretty well known. And like last year, we had Benjamin Treneslaus, the person who created SRE, to be with me for a 30 minutes Ask Me Anything session. So this year also, we will have around 50 speakers from across the globe on different topics related to it. So its registration is free. Go ahead, get it done. Get your registrations done. You'll be able to watch them. It's a 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. Event, 14 hours continuous. And there'll be some fun activities along with it. So hope to see you there. Thanks, everyone.